Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is there for me to talk about Magic Commander and anything else while we try and drag this whole mental health thing back to where it's supposed to be. And also, I must apologize for the last few weeks. I haven't recorded anything because my insomnia was kicking my butt again. But we're back today. And I want to talk about some cards that I actually ended up just picking up out of the blue, and then a deck that I'm going to start working on. First up, I have played every God of War game minus the Ragnarok one. You know, all the way back to, my PS2 days. And I finally decided to pick up, 4 cards, essentially, that are going to be the start of that deck. And I want to talk about them real quick. So first up we have Kratos the Stoic Father, which is 2, a red and white, for a 4/4 God Warrior. Whenever you attack with one or more gods, and whenever a god dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1 puzzle counters on target creature equal to the number of experience counters you have, and it has partner, father, and son. The partner here is Atreus, Impulsive Son, otherwise known as Boy. For 1, a blue and a red, you have a 2/4 God Archer with Reach, and for 3 and tap, you can draw a card for each experience counter you have, then discard a card, and then Atreus deals 2 damage to each opponent, and again, has the partner, father, and son. So, this gives you a Jeskai deck. So, not like Eska, which is just, all 5 colors of gods. And so there's less you can do with this. There's some. I haven't fully decided what I want to do with them yet, but there's also a few other experience commanders that fit into this color. Like, the giant. I think her name is like Kelme or something like that. And she gives you experience counters whenever you cast a creature with mana value 5 or greater, which most gods sit around the mana value of 5 or greater. So that's one thought. And then the other thought is just whatever gods fit into Jeskai. The one that pops to my mind first is Keranos. And yeah, I feel like we could run some of those. But the other 2 cards I picked up were also from supplemental stuff. The first one is Surtur the Fiery Jotun, 3 red for a 5/5 giant god warrior. Has trample, and whenever you cast a historic spell, it deals 3 damage to any target. And then the last card that I picked up for this is Kratos the God of War. It is red for a 2/3 god warrior with double strike. All creatures have haste. And at the beginning of each player's end step, Kratos deals damage to that player equal to the number of creatures that player controls that didn't attack this turn. So, I feel like that one would make a fun deck just by itself. But so far, that is the beginning of Kratos and Boy. Am I anywhere close to finishing that deck? I knew, but I do know I have some of the gods floating around, so I've just gotta, rifle through boxes and see what I have. But that said, it's more about a deck that I want to talk about. So when I was out shopping the other week, I finally ran across the Terra Herald of Hope precon in the wild. So I picked it up, and as I've been going through it, I thought, you can kind of take Terra and just a few cards from that and do something different. So currently, I have Terra in one side piloting a deck, and then the other side has Celes, the Ruined Knight. That's kind of picking up the rest of the cards, and I'll figure something out with her later. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'm going to go over what I decided to do with Terra. Alright, and we are back. Now, to preface this before I start, there was a white black with a splash red warrior deck all the way back in Khans of Tarkir. And that's where I got this idea. So for those of you who are not familiar with Terra, Herald of Hope, she is Mardu, red, white, black, for a 3/3 human wizard warrior with the ability Trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards, and Terra gains flying till end of turn. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So my first thought was, what if we revisited that old archetype from, the Khans world? And that's where I got actually just a lot of stuff from Khans of Tarkir and from the return to Tarkir. It just kind of provided a lot. And so that's kind of where I want to start. And then I'll get into some of the other stuff after. So first up, I can't talk about Mardu Little Guy Reanimator without talking about Alesha Who Smiles at Death. So 2 and a red for a 3/2 human warrior with first strike. And whenever Alesha Who Smiles at Death attacks, you can pay a hybrid white, black. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, tap then attacking. So this is kind of like the original Little Guy Reanimator commander. And so there's no reason she wouldn't be in this deck. And to that note, we also have the Alesha Who Laughs at Fate, which is 1, a black and a red, for a 2/2 human warrior with first strike. Whenever she attacks, she puts a counter on herself, and then she has the raid ability. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to Alesha's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. So right there we have 2 really good reanimators for what this deck is trying to do. Where one is kind of constricted to, only things with power 2 or less. The other one is only restricted by however big she is, and that first raid ability, if she attacked that turn, she starts at a base power of 3. And most of the stuff in the deck sits between powers, 2 and 4. But I want to go through some of the original Khan stuff and then some of the new Khan stuff. So let's start with the Blood Chin Rager. 1 and a black for a 2/2 human warrior. Whenever it attacks, each warrior creature you control can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures. So in newer terms, that means whenever this attacks, warriors you control gain menace. Yeah, that's the card. Next up, we have the Bloodchin Fanatic. 1 black for a 3/3 orc warrior. For 1 and a black, you can sacrifice another warrior creature. And target player loses X life, you gain X life, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So again, we don't have a ton of high-powered things, but say we get something that has like an ETB, we can sacrifice it with the Bloodshin Fanatic, and then bring it back with Terra, or one of the Aleshas. Next, we have the Arishan Foremost, which is 1 white for a 2/2 human warrior with double strike. And whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, another target warrior you control gains double strike till end of turn. The reason this is good is if we give double strike to Terra, for each time she hits, we can pay 2 to get something out of our graveyard. Next up, we have what are arguably the 2 cards that made me want to build warriors originally, and that's Chief of the Edge and Chief of the Scale. So Chief of the Edge is a white and a black, and Chief of the Scale is a white and a black. Chief of the Edge is a 3/2, and Chief of the Scale is a 2/3. They're both human warriors. And they both say, other warrior creatures you control get, and then Chief of the Edge says +1/+0, and Chief of the Scale says +0/+1. So between the two of them, your warriors get +1/+1. And were they ever, the greatest of cards? No, but they fill a job and they do it well. Next up, we have the Dragon Scale General, which is 3 and a white for a 2/3 human warrior. At the beginning of your end step, bolster X, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control. This does hit your lowest toughness, so whatever. But it's growing your creatures, so it's fine. Next up, we have the Brutal Horde Chief, 3 and a black for a 3/3 orc warrior. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. And then for 3 and a hybrid red-white, creatures your opponents control block this turn if able, and you choose how those creatures block. So again, it's a form of evasion because you can send the team, force them to block something you want to actually reanimate, and then get through with Terra. Next up, we have the Mardu Strike Leader, which is 3 and a black for a 3/2 human warrior. Whenever he attacks, you make a 2/1 black warrior creature token, and then it has dash for 3 and a black. I've always liked this card. It's never been amazing, but I like having it. And after that, we move into some of the newer Tarkir creatures, starting with Zurgo Stormrender, which is Mardu, red-white-black, for a 3/3 orc warrior with mobilize 1. And then whenever a creature token you control leaves the battlefield, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, each opponent loses 1 life. After that, we have Zurgo Thunder's Decree, which is, again, Mardu, red-white-black, for a 2/4 orc warrior with mobilize 2. And it says, during your end step, warrior tokens you control have this token can't be sacrificed. That's specifically for the mobilized tokens. And then Avenger of the Fallen is 2 and a black for a 2/4 human warrior with Death Touch, and mobilize X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And yeah, that's like the Tarkir presence in the deck. And everything else came from just other places. So one of the few cards that remained from the actual precon is Siegfried, the Famed Swordsman, as 3 and a black for a 2/2 human warrior rogue with menace. When it enters, you mill 3 cards and put X +1/+1 counters on Siegfried, where X is twice the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Next, we have the Archetype of Aggression, 1 red for a 3/2 human warrior. Creatures you control have trample. Creatures your opponents control lose trample, and can't have or gain trample. After that, we have Suki, Kyoshi Warrior, 2 and a white for a 3/3 human warrior ally, and it says other warriors you control get +1/+1, and for 3 and a white, attacking warriors you control gain double strike till end of turn. After that, we have the Professional Facebreaker, 2 and a red for a 2/3 human warrior with menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, make a treasure token. And you can sacrifice a treasure to exile a top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. After that, we have the Rushblade Commander, which is a black and a red for a 2/2 Azra Warrior. And it says, warriors your team controls have haste. So that's important if you're playing Two-Headed Giant, but it still just gives your warriors haste. Next up, we have the Mindblade Render. 1 and a black for a 1/3 Azra Warrior. Whenever your opponents are dealt combat damage, if any of that damage was dealt by a warrior, you draw a card and lose a life. This also applies to if our opponents are attacking with warriors. And then we have the Kargan War Leader. 1, a red and a white for a 3/3 human warrior. Other warriors you control get +1/+1. Ogre Battle Driver. 2, red for a 3/3 ogre warrior. Whenever another creature you control enters, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. And then I have the last two here to talk about are things that help fill my graveyard. So first up we have Timurit the Murder King, which is a black and a red for a 2/2 zombie warrior. For 1 and a red, you can sacrifice another creature, and he deals 2 damage to target player. Or you can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice a creature to return Timurit from your graveyard to your hand. So we can use him on the field to get stuff into our graveyard for Terra to return. And from our graveyard, if we don't want to get him back, but there's something in play we'd rather have re-enter, we can use that to put him back into our hand and then get the other thing back with Terra. And then the last creature I want to talk about here is the Stormclaw Rager. 1, a black and red for a 2/2 ogre warrior. You can pay 1 and sacrifice another creature or artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on the Rager and draw a card. Activate only as a sorcery. But again, this is a way of getting him bigger, putting things in the graveyard to get back with Terra or with another Reanimator. And yeah, other than that, there are a few enchantments I want to talk about. Mainly because I only run 3, but they're 3 that are going to help Terra get through. First up, we have All Out Assault, which is 2 and Mardu, so red, white, black. For an enchantment, creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. More importantly, when this enchantment enters, if it's your main phase, there is an additional combat phase after this phase, followed by an additional main phase. And then when you next attack this turn, untap each creature you control. So you want to play this in your second main phase to get a second combat. Next up we have Within Range. 3 and a black for an enchantment. When it enters, you make 2 1/1 red warrior creature tokens. And then whenever you attack, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures attacking them. And finally, we have an old favorite of mine, Fervent Charge. 1 and Mardu, so red, white, black, for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+2 till end of turn. That doesn't seem terribly powerful, but you suddenly have Terra in the air as a 5/5. And yeah. That's kind of it. That's the deck so far. I haven't figured out lands yet, but I'm working on it. And I'm excited to sit down and play with this one. And another one that I built recently was actually the Killian Ink Duelist. So I've got that one ready to go to my next game night. And yeah, I'm working on some other things. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. So I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulvey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.